We're on.
Okay.
Aha! What do we have here?
Now we're going to talk about, we just finished doing the wedge cylinder heads.
This
Now
looks
we have,
like a Honda here.
yeah, this is a Honda 4V, and what I'm going to have to highlight is there are
And
difference.
What is this?
This is a Ford 4.6.
4.6.
I'll show
Okay.
everybody later on. Now we talked about previously on the segment before this about swirl and
Tumble and swirl.
tumble and swirl. Now when you look at this Honda head or Acura,
Let's move this on.
Alright.
Okay.
what it has is not really much swirl. It just have a tumble situation because a port angle comes in here right at the top of the valve, and all it does is do this.
That's tumble.
Now, yeah. Now, certain engine designs, they tumble in reverse, and actually, instead of propagating the flame or enhancing the flame, it tries to snuff it out. I'm not going to say who's that manufacturer that does that, but they do it for emission purposes. And when the people use that kind of cylinder head, they go backwards in power because it swirls. I mean, it tumbles contrary against the flame front.
Oh.
It kills the flame
Okay.
front.
Okay.
So, what you have here is this. It comes in, tumbles this way, or maybe this way. More likely this way.
Like where it's standing, like
Right.
probably a counterclock.
Yeah, it goes this
I mean,
way.
a clockwise.
Clockwise. We're looking at it from the right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now it has that. Now,
This is intake. This is
That's
exhaust. Okay.
now again, what I said about the previous article about the crossover, where the standard wedge comes in here and comes in and goes the other way. That tries to limit reversion. Now, a port that flows good one way will also flow good in reverse.
In reverse.
Now,
That's
here's what
efficiency.
yeah, that's efficiency. The problem here is that what comes in quick and goes the other way also backtracks just as easy. Now, this is reversion prone. Comes in, it also wants to migrate back into the to the combustion chamber.
Back into the
Yeah.
intake.
So that's basically like an inbuilt EGR. You don't want that for any kind of racer. So the situation, how do you enhance mixing in this kind of combustion chamber? Here we have the second example. If you notice, this one here has this area here,
You've got this.
right? The quench pad,
Mm-hmm.
which is missing here.
Here. There.
Now, the purpose for that is when the piston comes up, it pinches it and throws it towards the center,
Directs it towards
the center of the spark plug.
where the spark plug
Okay.
is.
Now, if you utilize your quench clearance correctly, let's say 30, 45, as tight as 25 in some engines, but anything above 55 or 60, you lose this element of quench. Or what is another word for that?
Chamber.
Yeah, quench pad or a squish pad. There you
Space.
go. Yeah, squish pad. Now, when the squish pad is utilized, the piston comes up, flow here, it intersects, either it goes this way or that way. Okay, so that's another mixture motion that's inside the combustion chamber, which is missing here. It doesn't have that. So guys that are really good, they filled it in,
They'll put in.
they weld it,
They weld it in.
right?
They'll put a
Yeah.
quench
They
area.
put a quench in it. All right. Now, let me caution everybody that there are people with supercharged turbo cars, they don't believe in this quench. They say the boost in itself creates its own mixture motion.
Actually,
True,
yeah.
maybe,
Or it
but
just
then again-
pressurizes
right,
it more.
Right, it just creates its own mixing process. Maybe, maybe not. But I always like this quench.
Yeah. You can gamble on that, or
yeah.
you can just be sure about it.
But most advanced cylinder heads have this. So if you believe, you don't believe in this thing, but the trend is everybody has a quench pad. Now, what do you do to create some kind of swirl? Some guys put a 45 degree here and a 52. They change the
The angle.
seat angle so that you have some kind of a pulling situation to create this kind of mixture motion, like a
Very-
clockwise or counterclockwise. So
Very
you have,
creative, huh?
yeah, you have the swirl coming in, and then if you have two uneven flowing intake valves, guess what? You're gonna put a twist to it. If one valve is flowing better here or there, it'll twist this way. All right.
Okay.
So that's what you want. You want to put some kind of mixture motion in there, a mixing situation. Now, Ford did something else, which they did this. You have one square port and you have one oval port. Now,
Here,
what-
here, let's show them.
yeah,
Okay.
right. This too changes the characteristic of the flow coming in. What it does, it creates a swirl motion,
It makes a swirl.
Yeah. which is pretty good. And the funny thing is that everybody discounted this, all right? That, oh, they just want the standard intake port like this. But actually, some of the fastest 4.6s use this kind of cylinder.
Right, uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, it's actually rectangular.
it's telling you something, all right? So this two uneven port creates a swirling situation,
Creates an swirl.
which is not possible with this,
Yeah.
all right? So the only way you can do that is you either install a bigger valve, okay, granted, let's say you have a 45-degree seat, you go 1 millimeter over here or 1.5 millimeter over on one side, there's benefit to that, because one valve is gonna flow a little bit better than the other side, so it'll do this.
It'll give it a swirl.
Yeah, it comes in, tumble, come into the chamber, or get piston come up. Now you have one with an oversized valve, or you have a different seat, it come in a little bit uneven, so you have this,
It creates.
creates this and this,
Mhm.
all right? So, you wanna,
That's a very good thing.
yeah, especially if you're normally aspirated, why not?
Why not?
But I tell you what, turbo probably works just as well. Everybody says, oh, just like the old belief, oh, when you have a turbo, you don't need that runner length. You can make the manifold short. Nope, still lose low end torque. Even though you're boosted, still lose torque. So runner length, swirl, they're all coming
That
into play.
runner is very important.
Yes.
That runner is very, very
Yeah.
important.
Now, some of the 4V heads out there with a shallow chamber like this, on the flow bench, when you increase that, well, you port to take advantage of the short side, you get an increase in flow at the flow bench. Looks good on paper. But again, I can't tell what manufacturer. One manufacturer dropped the floor, contrary to what is the popular belief, that you don't drop the floor.
Contrary to
Actually,
textbook.
yeah, it actually, they cut and dropped the floor a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a shallow chamber. It lost on the floor bench, but it got faster at the racetrack. I can tell you what manufacturer that is. So, for some of you 4V guys, don't eliminate it completely. Just drop it slightly and test at the track. You don't just go there and say, oh, it's perfect. Trial and error,
Word to the wise.
okay?
One adjustment at a time. Okay?
Yes, one change at a time.
Don't try to change 3 different things, because whether you gain or you lose, you don't know where you got it or where you
Exactly.
lost it.
Exactly, yeah.
One
Where
change
was
at
it
a
get?
time.
One change at a time. So again, drop the floor a certain amount, not all the way, because if you take it off completely, you just ruin it. But it breaks the norm that when you drop the floor, this is a no-no really, then you test, you might see some power thing, even though the flow bench said no, right?
And you really won't know when you've gone too far until you've gone too far.
Yeah. No.
So
Right.
it's a work in
Yeah.
progress, and it's an expense in progress.
Right. So just again, it may work on the Honda, but I see it here is a little bit deeper. If you look at, this is a smaller chamber, but it's deep. This is a bigger chamber, but it's shallow.
Shallow.
All right. I tend to like this better. I don't like big combustion chamber. Big combustion chamber,
Less
they
compression.
take heat. Yeah, there's low compression, lower compression. You have to put a dome to get compression out of it. The bigger chamber takes in more heat. Okay, you want heat to stay there and make more power. This one absorbs more heat, a bigger chamber. This one does not. So I think that's, oh, and
You
then
have a
again,
smaller hemisphere here to
right,
deal with.
now, again, another point. A lot of people, I see it out there in Asia, in the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, I see a lot of 4V heads where the intake and exhaust is almost close to
Almost
each other.
the same and almost the same size.
Guys, that's a no-no, okay? That's a no-no.
Uh-huh.
If you look at this thing here, again, it's just drastically smaller intake to exhaust than this. Now, I see a lot of those in Asia, the exhaust valve is just as big.
Just as big as the intake.
Wow.
I know.
Not only is that dangerous, because you have this situation here. Spark plug, close, you get cracks,
Mm-hmm. Fractures.
okay? And at very high horsepower level. This part here collapses, all right? And then the seat falls off. Here, you want it to be as far as possible, all right? So again, contrary again to other opinion, I don't like to increase the exhaust size. I keep it where it's at. Maybe 1 millimeter over if you're not really satisfied, half a millimeter, but I will not go any more than that. And then I try to put as big an intake valve as much as possible on the intake side.
Mhm.
Same thing here.
Without,
Look at that.
without trying to, yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Look how much closer that is. Look how far that is.
Actually, look how close it is to
Yeah.
the rim.
Sure, sure. Okay, so again, the
Actually,
cracks are here, this situation, you don't get enough cooling between two exhaust valves, this becomes a failure point, all right, soft spot on the cylinder head. So again, a lot of people will probably tell you, put a big exhaust valve. Well, case in point, nitrous heads from, again, a bunch of Pro Stock guys or Glidden and Edelbrock. If you look at their nitrous head, the exhaust valve is actually smaller.
it is. I wonder why they do that.
Okay. The higher the horsepower, the smaller the exhaust valve. The higher the compression, the smaller the exhaust valve. But the bigger the intake valve. Okay, that's a given. But you guys, especially the ones in Asia, try to think about that. You don't want to do that. Okay, I'll write an article in Para pretty soon about this situation about a smaller exhaust valve. That's
The,
another.
the bigger is
Yeah.
better syndrome.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good,
Okay,
right?
so that's our topic for the
Alright
week,
then.
guys.
Thank you. Take it easy.